In this video, I'm going to show you how to solder a sterling cap. Okay, this is what a completed cap looks like. It only has two parts. On the top, you see a sterling jump ring. Can be any size, really. And on the bottom, there is a sterling domed spacer, floral spacer. They go by different names. Some manufacturers call them end caps, spacers, whatever. What's cool about the ones that I have been using, which I get from CGM in Tarzana, California, is that they're scored. They have lines on them running across them. And I use these lines to help me orient the placement of the jump ring, okay? To try and get the jump ring soldered on as evenly as possible. It's got to be even, okay? It's got to be even laterally and from a bird's eye view too. It's got to be even in every direction in order to work as well as it can. These caps can be stitched to all sorts of beaded structures, okay? And I've set out a few here, but there are many, many more possible. And all you have to do is stitch a metal bead. It should be a metal bead, probably not a glass bead, in order to last. Stitch a metal bead through every hole in the cap or every other hole. Stitch it in a way that the threads don't show and it's kind of invisible. And you know, these metal beads make for a nice accent too, a visual accent, okay? Now this kind of floral spacer, 9mm, it has 8 holes in it. This one, I think it's 8mm. It has only four large holes in it. So to use this one, I would stitch a sterling bead through every other hole for a total of 4 beads. There's no reason why you couldn't stitch 8 beads on here too if you want to, okay? Now I'm going to move these away and we'll get into the process. It's pretty fast. Step 1 for me is to take a needle file and gently file the top of the cap of the sterling spacer bead, end cap, whatever you want to call it, the dome. File the top of the sterling dome gently. Don't file it a lot, just file it a little. And what that does is it creates an even surface for the jump ring to get soldered onto, and it cleans this surface too, right? Which makes the solder flow better and everything work better. Okay, so that's step 1. Step 2, take your sterling jump ring, put it in your soldering tong. I tend to leave the jump ring open, right? I don't know if you can see that. It hasn't been soldered shut. Why is that? I want it open because I want the maximum sort of versatility, so that when I go to attach an earring finding, I have a jump ring that can be opened, right? It's not soldered shut. So maximum versatility. I then position the jump ring along the score lines of the cap of the sterling dome, okay? And then I put on a little bit of flux here. I'm using Rio Grande's, I forget what it's called. It's yellow flux, Mighty Flux, maybe that's what it's called. You can check their website. Many different kinds of flux will work. Sometimes I dip the jump ring into the flux a little bit. You can see I've set out I'm using easy solder here. I've set out my pieces of easy wire solder. And then all we have to do is turn on the torch. Doesn't matter what kind of torch you use. I happen to be using an acetylene torch. And here we go. I'll probably dip it again. There's all sorts of ways to pick up your solder. You could apply your solder using your little brush here. You could apply it to the top. That's certainly one way to do it. I often, because I'm doing these usually in production, I'm doing 20 or 30 at a time, I tend to just put the jump ring down, pick up a piece of solder, lightly melt it on there, you know, for good or for worse. These are not high-tech jewelry findings. They're fairly straightforward. I've already coated the dome, the sterling dome, with flux, so I know I'm good on that score. I see where the lines are in the cap, and I'm just going to try to solder as evenly as I can the jump ring to the cap, following those score lines, okay? My torch is probably a little bit too hot for this purpose. I'm going to turn it down a little. Yeah, better. And then I very often I'll have to reposition the cap, and then I check it. You know, I look at it. Okay, is this even? Is it really even? Is it my imagination? When it's closed, will it be even? Yeah, this one is pretty good. All right, I'd say it's decent. Yeah, fine. Let's do the 9mm size now. I've chosen a somewhat larger jump ring here. I have, whoops. I position the jump ring so that the open part, so I know where it is, okay? And I'm aiming to put the open part at like the 3 o'clock position on top of the sterling dome, or even a bit lower than that. Lower would be good too. I can't remember if I applied flux to this one, so I'm applying it now. I'm noticing where are the lines on the cap. Well, they're right here. So I know I'm going to try to orient the jump ring as carefully as I can to follow those lines. All right. Okay, I'm adjusting the positioning of the jump ring. And you'll come to know if you're going to use a larger jump ring that's also of a heavier gauge, you want a slightly heavier piece of solder, larger piece of the wire solder. Any kind of solder will do. I mean, silver solder. Okay, I'll kind of spread it out there. And then just solder on the jump ring. Noticing where is the opening ending up. Okay, should be in the 3 o'clock position or even the 4 o'clock position. Okay, go slow with these. Don't try to go too fast. Make sure the solder sits on both sides of the jump ring, right? Like here, I think that the solder is only really attached to the right side of the jump ring, so it will never be as strong as it could be if the solder had attached to the other side too. All right, solder has got to attach to both sides of the jump ring. All right, now I think we're in a better position here. I know you have a bird's eye view, so it's not so easy to see, but hopefully you're getting the gist of this. All right, there we are. Let's check it. Is it really, will it really sit perfectly aligned? No, it needs a little bit of adjusting here. So I'm just going to adjust it, reorient it a tiny bit. Check it again. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, so that's it for this video. Whoop, just a quick tutorial here in how to make one of my sterling caps. And I hope you have fun with this experiment.